Hello and welcome to Scran, the podcast passionate about the Scottish food and drink scene. I'm your host, Rosalind Erskine, and on this episode I'm taking a deep dive into the world of Scottish cider. Growing in popularity, I wanted to speak to some of the people who are at the heart of cider industry and to see how their businesses are doing and what we can all look forward to. First up, I spoke to Judith Gillis, who, along with her husband Ron, runs Cairnmore Winery in the Carse of Gowrie, Perthshire. Since 1987, they've been brewing up fruity award-winning wines and more recently cider, as they're based in an area famous for its apples, pears and plums. Judith told me how they got into the business, how it is changing and what their hopes for the future are.
In the last 10 years, we've paid £2 million in wages into the local economy. And never mind the excise duty, which is another £2.5 million in the last 10 years. So, buying our wine is very good for our local economy, no doubt about it.
Next up, I chatted to Grant Hutchison and his wife Jay about their store Able in Anstruther, Scotland's first dedicated cider shop. Grant was previously the drummer in Frightened Rabbit, and in recent years has turned his attention to cider. Now they're putting on their first cider festival, which is happening in Edinburgh at the end of the month. They tell me all about how COVID prompted their move to Fife and the opening of the store, as well as how people's understanding and appreciation for cider is changing. We also discuss their plans and hopes for the upcoming festival, one of the first of its kind too.
Great to have those weird and more advanced, challenging ciders for all the other cider nerds that come from all parts of the country and beyond that are absolutely amazed that we stock some really unique, smaller makers that you can't get anywhere else.
I'm now joined by Judith from Cairnmore Fruit Wines in Perth. Hi Judith, how are you?
Hello, very well, thank you.
We are going to chat a little bit about your wines and your ciders and all things coming up for you guys. But for anyone that doesn't know, do you want to just give us a quick potted history of your business and how it came to be?
Well, it's Cairnmore Winery and Cider House, and we're based between Perth and Dundee near Errol. And this is a big fruit growing area, strawberries, raspberries and the wild fruits as well, elderberries, brambles, elderflowers, meadowsweet, So in the 80s, when Ron and I got together, we both had a bit of a history of fruit wine making. I'd grown up in a farm in Galloway and my mum was a keen winemaker and my dad made beer and Ron had started making fruit wines. So we started off in the book cupboard at the farmhouse making fruit wines. Then we got our license to produce and we converted old farm buildings that were no longer needed. And we started with a core of 5 fruit wines. There was strawberry, raspberry, bramble, elderberry and oak leaf. And there was all these things that we gathered locally. And we fermented them in old raspberry berry barrels that were unused on the farm from raspberry picking days. And we started selling it locally, just local off licenses and bars, and everyone was really quite excited about it and it did really well. It was that thing of you would produce and then it would flatten off a bit. So we do a bit of marketing and then there would be a boost. So we grew from 4,000 bottles up to 30,000 bottles in 3 years and then we went full time. And since then, we've just grown to about 200,000 bottles each year. We've been, someone will phone up, I've got this spare fruit, so would you like to use that? And the cider came about because this was a big apple growing area. And Ron used to say, we should be doing something with these apples. It's apple growing. And I would say, no, we're too busy with autumn oak leaves and the elderberries. There's no time for that. But eventually in 2010, we started gathering apples and people would bring in their spare apples because a friend in Germany, that's what they did there. And so we went to have a look and it seemed like a great idea because nobody likes in a big year, when everyone's got spare, nobody likes to see them wasted, so we'd bring them round and we would pay for them. So the cider took off from there.
And how was that received as part of your business? Does it do quite well, or how's it grown?
Well, it was funny because the first year we made quite a small amount, and it was pretty good actually. And everyone got very excited. And so the next year we put it about, right, we buy apples. We advertised we buy apples. And everybody brought in their apples. But of course, most of them were cooking apples. Everyone was they're eating apples and bringing us the spare cooking apples. And I didn't know much about it then. So we fermented these cooking apples. And of course, the cider was so sharp. I cut your throat. It was unreal. So we called it tart cider. It was ready after about 5 years. So we learned quite quickly about the apples are everything when you're making cider. And so over the years, we've got far more people have apples in their garden now, and dessert apples and cider apples. And so we've got a lovely balanced cider now.
Can you tell us a bit about the heritage orchards that are part of your land or farm?
Well, it's this whole area, the Carse of Gowrie, was big for apples. And then in the early 1900s, there was a bit of a lull and, they were getting apples from elsewhere. But just in the last 20 years, there's been quite a rejuvenation of interest in orchards. And so the old orchards have been sort of surveyed and new orchards planted. And there's probably the biggest growth in apple tree planting around here at the moment is for cider apples.
Well, so it's a huge regeneration then, so people are really getting into it.
That's right, yes. No, it's great. It's very exciting, yep. And the number of Scottish cider producers is growing every year. Yeah, no, it's great. We've got a WhatsApp group and we swap tips.
That's nice. And can you tell us about your cider? So one of them's called Pictish cider, which ended up, there's a bit of a story behind that, isn't there?
Where we are in the Carse of Gowrie, we used to be all bog, and it was drained a long time ago by the monks at the abbey. Where we are on Inchmichael, Inch means island. So this was an island, and way back when there was Picts living here. And there's in dry season, you can see the outline of various buildings and settlements that have been here. And so we've got the Pictish cider.
Where can people buy your stuff? Is it quite readily available in your local area, like around Scotland?
Able in Fife, they stock the ciders. And so we've got a whole range of wines, ciders and premium soft drinks. So good delis and interested licensed grocers and visitor centres and online, of course. We've got the online shop for all of them and the shop here at the winery, and we do tours and things like that as well.
Oh, nice. So people can come and see all the fruit and things going
there. We do a very good tour, I have to say, Wednesday, Saturday, Sundays, and people keep coming back. They come back and then they bring their family and then they bring their friends. And it's a great tour. And you see how it's made. And, if it's in season, you can quite often see the strawberries coming in and getting chopped up or whatever. And you get all the smell. You go in the fermentation room and you get the smell of all the yeast. And you go in the cellar bit and it's all dark and cobwebby. And then you have a taste of all the wines. It's good.
So you guys have been doing this for quite a few years. Have you sort of noticed changes in people's sort of palates and understanding of fruit wines? Because I know fruit wines are really, really old in Scotland, but it's not necessarily something that you would think, if somebody's going out, taking a bottle of wine to a friend's house or something, it's maybe not something they would automatically pick up, or is that something you're finding's changed? Or
yes, I think there's so many new things that people are open to the fruit wines more now. And the thing is, they are unique to this area. In the UK, we import so much drink from all around the world. So everybody's got a huge choice. But a lot of it's quite boring, whereas our stuff is so unique. It's from this place. It's a taste of the Carse of Gowrie. And so it's just, and we've called it Care No More, because in the 80s, it was all right to have a joke. So drink a bottle and care no more, whereas nowadays you don't sort of say that. And so people often thought we were a bit of a gimmick with having the funny name. It's just because we like a joke, it's not because the wine or cider's jokey. The wine and cider are great. People taste them and think, oh, I didn't expect it to be this nice, It's unique, and really lovely.
Yeah, and people are caring more about provenance and things, aren't they? So I can imagine that the interest
Oh,
is huge.
absolutely. Absolutely. Local to me is a huge thing. Partly it's the local economy. Your money's not going just to big companies, basically. Recently, I was just doing a wee calculation, and in the last 10 years, we've paid £2 million in wages into the local economy. And never mind the excise duty, which is another £2.5 million in the last 10 years. So, buying our wine is very good for our local economy, no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was amazed as well.
Probably fell over. A while ago, we had a podcast episode with Oz Clark, the wine guy, and he talked a little bit about how Scotland could eventually have like proper vineyards and grow wine if the climate changes as much as it is. And he talked about kind of Perthshire and the fruit growing areas. Is that something that you could see happening? And is it something that you would ever really be interested in? Or are you kind of up for sticking with the sort of local fruit wine?
Well, we just use whatever grows well locally. And over the years, it is going to change, no doubt about it. And so if it comes that grapes are good in this area, I think I'll be long dead by then, to tell you the truth. But because, raspberries don't like dry. So if it's changed and so much that raspberries aren't growing, then obviously, yes, and grapes are growing. But we're keen just to use whatever grows locally. We'll pick it and we'll taste it and we'll ferment it. And if it makes a nice drink, we'll use it. Yeah, I don't care what it's called or whatever. So long as it's local, that's our big thing.
And do you have anything coming up in this year, plans for any launches or what you're kind of looking forward to over the summer?
Well, our new one at the moment is actually a non-alcoholic sparkling rhubarb drink, which is very nice. So we're just tweaking the recipe on that one, and but it's tasting really nice at the moment. And new thing for us is we're going to be at Heartland Festival with Wasted Degrees Brewery. They have their beer tent, and they're taking us our cider on for their cider at the festival. So that'll be music festival. So that'll be exciting. Every day is an excitement here. You never know what's going to happen. The sunshine, there's a storm, there's rain, the fruit's good, the fruit's difficult to find. And you always get something each year that's of interest. Somebody phones up, I'm interested in buying a pallet of wine or something. And when it happens. But looking forward to the Heartland Festival. That'll be a good one.
I've actually tried your sparkling rhubarb and it was lovely, and I can imagine that getting into sort of non-alcoholic market is quite a good thing now with everyone sort of cutting down on drinking a wee bit.
Well, so they say. Actually, people are still drinking as much as they always did, but it's good having a non-alcoholic one at the end of the night.
Yeah. And you could always put a wee gin in it if you wanted.
Oh, no, you wouldn't be wanting to go near that stuff. No, that's terrible stuff.
Well, thank you very much. And it was lovely to talk to you and find out more about your business. And good luck with it all.
Thank you very much for interviewing me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. I'm now joined by Grant and Jay from Able Cider in Fife. Hi guys, how are you?
Hi.
Hello. Good, thank you.
Good, how are you?
So we are going to chat a little bit about your upcoming cider festival, but before we do, because obviously, coming into nice weather, spring, good chance to get outside and have a nice drink of cider. But before we get into it all, could you guys just give us a little potted history for anyone that doesn't know about how your business came to be?
I had run a wholesale distribution company for cider when we lived in Glasgow called Restock, and then Jay and I moved to Fife, the East Nook of Fife, to St Monans in 2020, just after we'd had our first child. So it was quite a shift in lifestyle from Glasgow to the East Nook. We had kind of always had this feeling of wanting to open up a little bar after spending time in Tokyo on our honeymoon. So we saw a sign in a shop window in Anstruther and thought it looked like a good spot to have a little cider bar. I sort of stopped doing the distribution wholesale stuff because most of my business was in the Central Belt, and it just wasn't viable from Fife. So we quite quickly shifted focus to Able.
Does Able mean apple?
In Danish,
Is that a stupid question?
Yeah, no, it's not a stupid question. Yeah, it's not the most obvious name, although we do get some Danish people in who very much enjoy it's called Able. Also, like the able, the English meaning of able is a lovely word too. But I think secretly Grant and I just wish we were Danish. Our daughter's got a Danish name too.
Was it always in the plan in terms of maybe lifestyle, or was it because, the East Neuk has become quite a prolific sort of food and drink destination with like Bowhouse and like Knockerin and all those places that people kind of go to visit?
At no point was Fife on anyone's cards.
I don't know if it ever is.
I'd never even been to the East Neuk until Grant and I got together, and then I couldn't believe how much of a like beautiful, magical little part of Scotland it is, and I hadn't been. And then, so I was pretty infatuated with it from then. A big part of the reason we moved was the lockdown. Like, we'd both obviously worked in events and music, and that all stopped. We just felt a bit claustrophobic in the city, I guess. We didn't have any outdoor space. And we're like, do you know where does have loads of outdoor space? The East Neuk. And I've always wanted to live by the sea. And then the cider shop / bar idea started to kind of formulate, and we were like, where in Scotland? It wasn't specifically to the East Neuk, but we were looking at Scotland as a whole, like where could we move to that ticks all these boxes that, well, first of all, that we could remotely afford by the water, that could house a very niche business. And we just felt like there's a really good tourism, there's a really good food and drink scene. At the time, we were only really aware of the Bowhouse and Futtle. I think Canucker had only just opened, Bairn hadn't opened yet. There was a lot brewing, I think, but we vaguely knew Futtle, so they were very inspiring to us. And yeah, we got the keys for our house and the shop on the same day, so it was a whirlwind of a few months.
And during a pandemic as well, so it's quite going out there for a hospitality business, well, sort of, that type of thing during a pandemic. But how's it going now? I mean, it's obviously a good few years down the line. How did the local community kind of receive you, and like how are you getting on now?
Yeah, it's taken us until maybe last summer to properly figure out how to do it. I mean, we didn't. It wasn't just the fact that we were in a new place, but neither of us had like run a booze shop or a bar. We'd both worked in those situations, but it's quite different when it's your own business. Initially, we sort of thought, oh, well, we'll just do what we would have done in Glasgow, but do it here, which wasn't quite the right approach. It is a different customer base here. The community's different, and like Jay said, it's very seasonal, and it's great to have the tourists during the holiday season, but it's important that you encourage and get local people to shop here as well. But they're quite different markets, so we've kind of had to adapt and amend slightly. I think when we first opened, I'm probably more of a cider nerd than Jay, and I basically filled the shelves with all this weird, funky stuff, that dry, still ciders that nobody else would really drink. And people, I think, bought them initially because it was kind of, exciting and new and niche. But yeah, we quickly realised that, generally the leaning of most people is towards a sweeter cider, and we've amended what we stock and how much of that weird stuff goes on the shelves.
We just like to keep it. Yeah, we like to keep something for everyone, I guess, because it's great to have those weird and more advanced, challenging ciders for all the other cider nerds that come from like all parts of the country and beyond, that are absolutely amazed that we stock some really unique, smaller makers that you can't get anywhere else. So that's brilliant to have, but also just for people wanting, a bottle of something to take to a dinner party with their friends who maybe don't drink cider, but they want to take something different.
Like, how do you pick what it is that you're stocking, and do you sort of try and have a mix of like Scottish ciders and English ciders? Like, how do you sort of plan that out?
My previous business doing the wholesale side, I built up a lot of good contacts, direct contacts with cider makers, managed to try a lot of stuff. We've got access directly to the people that make it. When new releases are coming out, or we're looking for something specific that goes into what we want to go into our subscription box, or you've got an event coming up, or we're going into peak season, we can kind of chat to them and see what they've got and see what might fit. The Scottish cider scene again is even smaller, obviously, than UK wide, so we try and stock as many of Scottish cider makers as we can. It's one of the first questions that people ask when they come in is, do you have anything local? And there's 2 or 3 very good cider makers in Fife alone. All 3 of them offer something quite different.
We're both passionate about being able to describe each cider with customers, like to know what's on the shelf. So trying them is important. Quite quickly we felt like we know most of the cider makers, which is great because now we've got a really lovely relationship with them all. Finding new ones is so exciting still, because obviously we're very encouraging of people to make cider, keep those orchards going and things, but it's just worked out really well that they're very close to us. We do a lot of research as well. I mean, social media, with its pros and its cons, Instagram is quite a good tool to discover new businesses and new cider makers for those that use it. Yeah, we get excited about finding new cider makers when they come up.
And have you guys found people's thoughts on ciders maybe changed over the years? Because I mean, I think I've read an interview with you guys in the past. It's the thing you used to drink on a park bench when you were a teenager, like White Lightning. Is it obviously as much as a craft and industry? Are people, like consumers, sort of more open to that, coming around to that, trying different things? Is that what you're finding?
On a smaller scale, yes. We try our best to promote the ciders that we sell, or certainly a big portion of them, essentially as wines that are made with apples. Even that kind of conversation alone can quite often be a light bulb moment for a lot of people, because essentially cider is made in exactly the same way as wine, but with apples as opposed to grapes. It's just that in the UK, traditionally, historically, at some point, it shifted from being presented in 750ml wine bottles and drunk like that to a pint glass, and to be sort of sparkling and sweet and clear and sort of between 4 and 5% alcohol.
Ice.
Yeah, with ice, that was the big thing. The Magners effect is a well-known industry bump, I guess, for cider, and it did do great things for a lot of people in the industry, but it also kind of set back a lot of the kind of more craft or fine cider makers who wanted it to be taken maybe a bit more seriously, or just to be understood better. Whenever people come into Able and leave with something, they leave with a kind of new understanding of what it is and what it could be. It's a way off it being a kind of cultural shift, and maybe it never will go that way, but there's a couple of trends that are definitely helping it out more generally, which is, a move towards maybe lower alcohol or lower ABV or lower alcohol consumption in general, and that's where cider kind of wins out against wine. And then also people who have a bit more of an eye or want a bit more of an awareness of provenance, so drinking well-made British cider without preservatives or without sugar or without, a lot of water added to it, is something that people are trying to do a lot more of. But yeah, there's still a long way to go.
When you say the sort of lack of sugar and preservatives and stuff and the low ABV, it seems to be that's kind of driving quite a lot of things just now, which leads me on to your big event, which is coming up quite soon at the end of the month. Do you want to tell us about your first ever cider festival and what people can expect?
Yeah, so it's quite scarily soon now.
Maybe we should mention how you pronounce it first.
Yeah, so Ul, which is
Gaelic for apple. We're fans of using languages other than traditional English to describe the fruit that people are using.
Just to confuse people.
Yeah.
Felt right, and it's like a nice little nod to Gaelic, and it was interesting to learn a new word as well. I didn't know that was the word for it. So that's at Custom Lane on the 28th of March, and I guess it was inspired by Grant and I have been to the cider salon down south a few times and other kind of cider festivals around the country, and we always have such a brilliant time. It's such a great opportunity for cider makers to come and showcase a variety of bottles. And for people to, again, because cider isn't up there with beer and wine, it gives people the opportunity to try lots of different styles from different makers without, actually our ticket prices are only £20, and for the price of that, you're getting to try so many different ciders, because we know, it can be a commitment to come into our shop and maybe spend £15 or something on a bottle of cider that you've not tried before. But this is a really good chance for people to try a whole lot of different types of cider.
We've invited 15 cider makers, so we've got 10 coming from Scotland, 5 from England, and for your £20 ticket, you'll get a glass when you arrive, and there's two 2-hour sessions, and basically once you've got your glass and you're inside, all the sort of samples that you get are free, and they'll all be poured by the cider makers. They're basically sending someone or coming themselves to pour it, so it's on top of the opportunity to try them. You can actually speak to, I think about, if not 100%, 90% of the people that'll be pouring will be the people that have made it. So again, that's pretty unique when you compare that to wine. Quite often beer events, the brewers are there. That's really important for us, because the hope is that the people that have bought tickets, a big majority of them, this will be a really new experience for them. So to be able to speak to the person that's made it and ask very simple, basic questions to expand their knowledge is great. At least to go away and have enjoyed some of them, but at the very least have it, like I say, opened your mind to it and expanded your understanding of what it is and what it could be. And, the fact that some of the best cider in the world is being made here. That's one of the things that always frustrates me about it, is that, you see other food and drink regions around the world, Champagne, other wine regions in France and Italy and even California and New Zealand, shouting about the heritage that they have. Beer in Belgium,
whiskey in Scotland.
Whiskey in Scotland, we do it very well for that, but the UK, for some reason, there's less pride in the cider that we make and how it's made. I'd love it if people went away just even with that in their mind.
And why did you decide to do this now? Is it just the sort of number of producers, or are you just, I don't know, the audience, or the fact it's coming into spring and it's be nice to be outside in the sunshine?
Yeah, it's something we wanted to do for quite a while. We did get funding to do it from Scotland Food and Drink, which is great, because it's given us the chance to kind of go in with it at full steam. It feels like the best way to get these ciders in front of people. And yeah, like you say, the timing, we're just coming into sort of spring. People still have this mindset of sunny weather cider. So yeah, the hope is it kind of sticks with them. Although there's plenty of winter ciders, but we'll not get into that. It's going a bit deep.
There's the mulled cider as well.
Yeah, mulled cider. It's always, we do that in the shop, and we have that on for months in the shop because it's so popular and so cold.
Yeah, I love it.
But yeah, it's something different, isn't it? I mean, you've got festivals for everything now, but there are not many cider festivals. I think for this one, and hopefully if it goes well, it won't be the last one, but we felt like Edinburgh, first of all, we love the space at Custom Lane. We felt like Edinburgh is a very good, as much as it's not central to people in Somerset, it's more accessible. The East Nook's still quite challenging to get to on any form of public transport, so it kind of rules out an audience in some respects. So we felt it was safer and more accessible for people to be able to get to Edinburgh. But yeah, we've been talking about doing something like this for ages, so hopefully it will continue.
First of many, hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, I can see it being a massive success. So my main thing with cider is, apart from Magners, was going to Glastonbury for the first time 3 years ago and loving the cider bus and championing the cider bus and going to the cider bus like all day, every day.
Yes.
Would you guys love to see Scotland kind of recognised for its cider in the way that kind of Somerset has? I know it's got like the sort of heritage and history, but would you kind of like there to be that kind of thing acknowledged here?
Scotland doesn't have the same history that somewhere like Somerset does have it, but I think traditionally, certainly in the cider world, there has been this thought that you only use cider apples grown in the southwest of England to make cider. That's changing, and if anything, as opposed to kind of Scotland, having this culture and heritage around cider, it's kind of that we're maybe the kind of disruptors a little bit, because we don't have traditional cider apples up here, and most of the makers that are making it are using Scottish apples, apple varieties, which give you a slightly different profile, a different end result. I think it would be great if there was an appreciation for that and what they're doing. Certainly some of the kind of newer people in the whole of the UK cider industry are a lot of them are quite taken aback by a few of the Scottish makers. Specifically, there's one called Naughton Cider Company here in Fife, and Peter Crawford is a cider maker there, and he's making basically champagne style cider. He'll be there at Custom Lane for Owl, and we sell a bottle of his cider for £25, and that seems like quite expensive, maybe more expensive than most people would spend on a bottle of wine. But the bottle that we stock right now of his, that's £25, is from the fruit is from 4 years ago, and that's how long the process is to make a bottle like that. So yeah, just kind of understanding and appreciating the labour, the love and the time that goes into something like that is what I would like to see changing.
Well, thank you guys very much, and I hope the festival goes well, and I'll need to pop in and visit you. By the way, I'm from Fife, which is why I said Fife was never in anyone's plans. I wanted to say that. I'll need to pop in because I'll go up to Bowhouse quite a lot, so it'd be lovely to come in.
Definitely,
just along the road from Bowhouse.
Well, thank you very much, and good luck with the festival.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks to Judith, Grant and Jay for being my guests on this episode, and thanks to you too for listening. Please remember to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss an episode of Scran. Scran is co-produced and hosted by me, Rosalind Erskine, and co-produced, edited and mixed by Kelly Crichton.